Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Speedrun Insider. My name is CJitsallGewd. I'm your host this week and every week. Thank you so much for listening, tuning in, downloading, liking, subscribing, commenting, all the things that you do each and every week to support the show. We appreciate it. Let me know if you've been liking the Friday releases. We've been trying that, you know. And by we I mean me. And by me I mean me. Yeah, just me. So I think people are downloading it more on Friday. So we're gonna roll with that. If y'all don't like it, let me know. Holler at me. Not to call me, but to literally, scream at me. Let me know that this is against the will of the people. We've been recording a lot of episodes recently, thanks to all of the suggestions from the listeners. If you want to get your suggestions in for who you would like to see on the show, you can join the Discord. It is the Speed Docs Discord. There will be a link in the description of the YouTube video. I don't have a link. I don't have a way to link it in the other platforms. And you can put your suggestions in the Speedrun Insider channel. By popular demand, and they're coming back soon. I'm not going to hold this gate closed forever. The NBA Jam style intros are still on hiatus. I'm going to have my guest, in an unusual turn of events, introduce themselves this week. I know. Sacrilegious. It's a break in the format, but sometimes what you really need to shake things up is a change in the weather. So guest, go ahead, please introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Amber Cyprian, and I'm pretty happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here, Amber. I have a story that I'd like to share with everybody before we get started. It's a story about you.
All right.
So, I was, back in, I don't remember how long ago it was. It wasn't that long ago. It was like a month ago. 2 months ago.
Yeah.
We, and by we I mean the Pokemon Snap community, had been toiling and grinding and stratting and whatever away at the new Pokemon Snap game. And it was early enough on that it wasn't clear who the people that were really, really going to push at it were. Like, there were different groups kind of labbing everything out. And somebody had retweeted and sent me the link to your tweet, which was APB for anyone doing new Snap stuff, because you were going to showcase it at Never Before Seen, which is a show on GDQ Hotfix. And we're going to talk about you and your involvement and all that you do there. So I did as instructed, and I contacted you. Then Eric Gunlap, or I guess he's not Gunlap anymore, so I'm just going to call him Eric because he changed his name to Lap. And honestly, I just refuse to call him Lap. He reached out to, I think it was you, but I have no idea because Eric is a little silly sometimes. And then Quo had reached out to me because he was going to reach out, and I'm like, well, 2 people have already reached out. And so Eric had been told, hey, can't do a race. But I was like, listen, Eric, I know that they said we can't do a race, but I haven't asked yet. And he's like, this is true. So I asked you if we could do a race, and then we didn't hear anything. And we were like, okay, well, Eric, have fun. We went off and we were doing other stuff. I think I was practicing like Nick Kart Racers 2 or something. And then we got a group DM and we're like, hey, we're doing a race. And I was like, that's great. That's great news. I'm really happy for this. And now I can do commentary and I don't have to play a game, which extends my streak of never playing a game on Hotfix, but doing commentary. I'm up to 3 in a row now. So, and then the Hotfix was great. But you left me biting my fingernails off for a couple weeks, wondering whether or not it was going to be a race.
Yeah, I'd have to check the dates on those DMs because I was actually in contact mainly with Eric. Like, you had reached out to me, Eric had reached out to me, and Quo had actually directly submitted to my submission form that I have. And
that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
so
that's
Quo
what had
told me
happened.
he had used the form. And I was like, nah, man, no one, the forum doesn't talk to you. We're talking to people. Quo was like, oh.
So it was interesting because like Eric had asked me, can we do a race? And typically for a first showing, I tend to avoid races, usually because it's harder to track or, less screen real estate, whatever reason. They are very doable tech-wise. It's just more a matter of I want to make sure the audience gets the best first showcase possible when I'm doing a new game that hasn't been on the show before or hasn't been on Hotfix, period. And of course, new Pokemon Snap being as new as it was very much one of those things I initially wanted a solo run for. And at the same time, I was juggling another event. If this was like a couple months ago, I was probably juggling prep for Sonic's birthday blast. In fact, that's exactly what it was. And what had happened was it took me a little while to finally have the energy to reply to Eric and say, hey, by the way, I've thought about it. Heck it, let's do a race. And I was like, I'm going to add you as a friend on Discord. Can we create this group this group DM and invite Quo and CJ? So we did that, and that's when I was like, hey, we're doing a race surprise to, the other two who had been involved, one of which was you. And from there, it was just kind of waiting for the show to actually happen. And the reason I had actually wanted to do new Pokemon Snap, besides the fact that I had played it and it was absolutely delightful, was because myself and another show host, Skybills, who hosts two shows, she hosts Random Number Generation and Mercy Kill. I was to be on her shows that week. And I was doing Pokemon Crystal for Random Number Generation, and I was unearthing a 10-year-old speedrun in the form of the original Pokemon Snap on Mercy Kill, and I grossly overestimated how long it would take me. So I went well under estimate. It was great, but I got bamboozled by a shoulder. But I'm still mad.
Swear to this day, so I'll give the people some context. I'm going to absolve you of your shoulder sins. I watched that.
What happened?
So I'm going to tell you what I think happened, and then you can tell me what really happened.
Okay.
I saw you. So on River, the strat is you don't take a picture of Shelder. It's like, you don't do that. While it's in the air before it clamps down on Slowpoke, because it does like this transformation gimme. Mm-hmm. While it's doing that, that's the picture to get. That's the Shelder strat. I swear you did it. And I swear it didn't count as slow, bro. And I walked away because I'm like, okay, I got time. Come back and it's like the beginning of cave. I'm like, cool. I've seen a billion snap runs. I don't need to see every second of this. I thought what happened was I thought it counted as Shelter, but you submitted the wrong one. Or you didn't submit one. I'm curious about what actually happened.
Okay, so that is roughly what happened. So I did try to do the Shelter clamping on Slowpoke's tail. And I went through this frame by frame, and I saw it did register a Shelter picture. And I was on WeVC, so I do know that there is some amount of detection problems on that. Mm-hmm. So I got both a Slowpoke and a Shelter picture, but proceeded to submit the wrong Slowpoke picture that still had Shelter in it that looked very similar to the Shelter picture I actually got.
So it was the Shelter picture, but it had detected it as the Slowpoke picture because has hashtag problems.
No, actually, I did have the Shelter picture. When I was going through the submission screen, I already picked a Slowpoke, and then I picked a picture that I thought was Shelter, because Shelter was very plainly in it. Mm-hmm. And it was another Slowpoke, and I didn't notice it. And it even said, Slowpoke's picture looks pretty cool. But the Shelter picture was actually one tick to the left, where Shelter was, kind of in the fiery silhouette where Slowbro was. and that was my shelter picture, but I didn't realize it. I thought it was just a bad Slowbro picture.
I see.
And I chose
that's
2
interesting.
Slowpoke pictures in a
Got
row.
it.
Like, I have screenshots, and I was so angry.
Got it. Oh, that would make sense. That makes more sense.
Yeah, and that was definitely a thing I was not amused by. And I remember getting to what I thought was the end of the run, and I was like, I have 63 Pokemon. Who did I miss? And I could hear TGH, who's my partner, who was like sitting on mic on my setup across the room. I hear him say, chat saying something about Shelter. And because I had chat closed the whole run. And I was just like, no way. And I go through the Pokemon report, and sure enough, there's no Shelter.
Yeah.
There's a Cloyster. There's no Shelter. And I was very salty about it.
Yeah, I remember seeing you get to that dreaded like 62, and then being like, oh no, what did I miss?
Yep.
I was doing the math. I was like, I think they're off. I think Amber's off. I'm like counting on like my fingers and toes. I'd take my shoes off so I could count over 10. I was like, what are they missing? I don't know. But yeah, no Shelter, because I was so convinced it wasn't Shelter. But then it turned out to be Shelter. So, and then the new Snap race was after that. That's why you were looking at new Snap, I think, to get us back on the road.
Yes. That's actually exactly why, because originally the plan was to have Skybills cross over with my show immediately after and do like a category of Zelda 1 randomizer that hadn't been done before, because I mainly stick to games themselves that haven't been on GDQ, but I also occasionally allow categories. I usually do every 10 episodes is a season, and then the start of the next season I do a category based episode rather than like, games. So like for season 2 we opened with Link's Awakening categories that had not been on. I had TGH on because it was an easy show to do. Admittedly, I was juggling 2 hotfix shows at the time, and it was I needed easy shows where I had like 2 runners at most, and thankfully that's where New Snap also came in. I had 2 runners and a commentator to tech check while I was juggling the other show that had like up to 8 people for me to tech check at any given time. New Snap was definitely the better option, because I remember sitting in, we do a monthly meeting for hotfix showrunners, and we were talking about the status of our show, and Skybills and I were talking about how we were crossing over for that week, and then the idea of new Pokemon Snap got brought up when I said, yeah, I'm running Pokemon Snap for Sky, and they were like, why don't you do New Snap? And I was like, I could do New Snap, couldn't I? The speedrun has started to develop, and the leaderboards are finally, submittable. So that's when I put that tweet out, like maybe a week later or so. And
it
was
wasn't
like
that
calling
long
all
after.
Snap runners. Yeah. So it was really nice to have like even 2, like 1 person reply, let alone 3. So, and you were fantastic on commentary, so it was really, really good. And Eric and Quo were also really awesome folks to just kind of chill and talk to during the tech checks. Like, I know I spoke with Eric at length after his tech check was over, and got to know him a bit, and it was really nice to like know that there were cool people that were going to be on my show, so I could feel more comfortable about like how good the show was going to be. Because sometimes when I reach out to people I don't know, or people who I don't know reach out to me to be on the show, I'm taking a chance. And
right.
When the tech checks go well, that's when I feel more comfortable about the quality of that episode that's going to be going out. When I have problems with communication from them, or when I have problems getting them tech checked, I worry a little bit. I had none of that problem with the 3 of you, and it was a fun race, and the commentary was, the downtime was hilarious, and then when we actually were listening to you commentate, it was super informative, and it was also funny to start the Typhlosion debate again.
I am gonna go to my grave saying that Typhlosion is green, and people can say that he's blue, and then they throw the orb, and it makes him green because the orbs make things green on that island, and I get it, and everything looks like a Christmas tree. But and the best part about that kind of stuff is not to like peel the curtain back too far, but the best part about that thing is I know that that's going to get a reaction out of the chat. That's why I bring it up. Like, not, and it's like not to instigate, whatever. It's so benign, right? It's so banal. It's like, oh, do you think that Typhlosion is blue or green? It's the type of like mundane argument that I'm passionate enough to get like super like loud about, that makes everybody else go crazy, and it's all in good fun, right?
What color's like, the dress?
Oh yeah, the dress, or like oh god, there
was another one.
Yeah, I don't remember though. I don't remember the other one, the dress too. No, I really enjoy doing commentary for I'm not gonna say New Snap in particular. I do enjoy the time. Like it is fun, but it's very long.
Yeah.
I had done it for, I think I've done 4 of them now. So I'm a little new snapped out. The last one that we did, I tried something different where it was during Gamer House Marathon over on the NASA channel. Shout out to Two Worlds who runs that. But so they took New Snap from Quo, which I was like, cool, and I do commentary with Quo on like everything. So like even games I don't play, he's like, hey, do my commentary for my Fire Emblem run. And people were like, wow, that was so good. I'm like, listen, I don't know anything about Fire Emblem. I showed up and was pretty.
It's a video game.
It said it's the video game. So last time I tried repairing my 2DS live on the thing, and I chimed in. I wasn't like super detached, but it was pretty funny. It's like there's so much downtime that you could repair a 2DS while doing commentary and still get all the major beats in. But we had a lot of fun. I think that was a really good showcase for the game, and I think everyone involved was happy with it.
Yeah, like if I'm not mistaken, that was the first New Snap race that you had commentated, right?
That was the first New Snap race that I think, yeah, that's ever been. Yeah, that was it.
And I'll go ahead and self-plug. If anyone is looking to see that episode of Never Before Seen, it's on the GDQ YouTube. It actually has been uploaded, so I think it won't just be the most recent, but at the time of recording, it'll be the most recent on the playlist. It won't be the most recent at the time of airing, I'm pretty sure. But definitely check that out. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm happy that I got to commentate both the old Snap race that was on the bargain bin.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to vent a little bit. It's not anything personal. I like, even though their name escapes me, I like the person that I think is the producer for that show.
Midnight Vesper.
Like Midnight Vesper. Salt to the earth. Salt of the earth. Salt of the earth. I hate the name The Bargain Bin. I feel like I'm like in the garbage. I'm like, oh, this is a show that's in the bar. I get it. It's supposed to be like the discount game vibe. I'm not a fan. That would be my one. If I had one piece of actionable thing, I'm like, let's spruce this name up a little bit, just a smidge. Maybe like, I don't know. I'm not gonna pitch, but that's my one thing.
So, the Bargain Bin, it's art that goes in the ad rotationals that we have, that advertise all the other shows. It shows like finding treasure out of the bargain bin, and it's more meant to show that like games that retail at $20 or less can be picked up for speedruns. And that isn't to devalue a game because, for example, like Celeste is $20 at its full price. And that's one of the most popular games to speedrun on SRC. And like new Pokemon Snap currently retails for $20 or less because it exists on Virtual Console. Or did I say new Pokemon Snap? I'm like regular Pokemon Snap. Yeah. So that it's not meant to be an insult, and it's not meant to be a like derogatory name. I think a number of the names on Hotfix shows could be better. Mine especially, because the only thing I could think of was Never Before Seen. And everyone's just like, this game's been seen before. What are you talking about? And I have to link my Never Before Seen chat command to explain that it's like never before seen in context to the main GDQ stage.
Yeah.
So like, I'm terrible at naming things. I think the Bargain Bin, especially combined with its art and its mission as a show, is really cool. And the Bargain Bin itself is meant to, alongside sort of The First Step, which is another show by J. Hobbs and Keyzeron, which I was also on that show that same week, like the day after the new Snap race. I was on.
You're very busy.
Yeah,
you do a lot of shows. I was
on The First Step in place of Keyzeron, because Keyzeron had some stuff come up and he couldn't be on the show. Those shows are kind of meant to help people get into speedrunning. The first step being doing an improv race, having done a single playthrough of a game like the day or two prior to the actual race, and then they try to like improv their way through it as quickly as possible. For all intents and purposes, that is speedrunning, even if it is not refined. And that's how you find out whether or not you're going to enjoy a game, I think, in that sort of context. But then the Bargain Bin is also like, speedrunning does not have to be an expensive hobby. You can find fantastic games, both, you know, speed game and actual quality of like casual game for $20 or less. And I love that mission. It's just like how my mission is for Never Before Seen is to give games that either would not normally be on the main GDQ stage, usually either due to length or it wouldn't fit on the schedule at the time or whatever. Or maybe just because it's brand new and hasn't had the chance to be submitted. I like giving runners and those games their like a platform. And GDQ Hotfix is a great way to do that. And it's also like Railcoon's show, the Community Spotlight, as well. They used to do a show called Runners Wanted. And Zoe no longer hosts that. That's no longer a syndicated show. But that idea for that show was games with very, very small communities looking for new runners, or looking for glitch hunters, or looking for routers, or looking for tassers, stuff like that. So like really, really tiny communities. And that's just kind of the mission of Hotfix in general, is to offer the platform during the off season, if you will. So between main events for GDQ. Offer the platform up to runners who just want to showcase their speedruns. And naming conventions aside, like none of these shows would be greenlit if they were meant to insult other runners.
No. I definitely didn't think that the goal was to insult runners, for sure. I was just I was being cheeky. But no, I definitely think the idea of the show is great. I think that all of the shows have really are conceptually strong. I'm also bad at naming things. I shouldn't talk. You know,
I agonize over an event name. I'm planning an event. It hasn't been announced. I'm not announcing it yet, but I was agonizing over a name for like the last month for it. And finally, a friend of mine, who I work with the Sonic Speedrun community, stepped in and was like, here's 5 suggestions I've come up with the context of what you're going for with this event. And I eventually did pick it, and it's funny because that's not the first time they've named one of my shows before, or one of my events rather. They named the Sonic and the Blank series, which is Sonic and the Shiny Things, and then Sonic and the Side Quests later on, which is a annual Hotfix Sonic showcase. But it was amusing.
I think my track record's pretty bad. Every time that I pitch a name, people are like, all right, we'll have to come up with something better later. And then we never do. Because naming stuff is hard, right? So, like, peeling back the curtain a little bit more. The company that owns Speed Docs, because it's an LLC, right? It has to be owned by something, right? For tax purposes. Got to find a way to do something with the money. It's called the Streamer Group. It's awful. It's a terrible name. When I was telling people that name years ago, this was like 5 years ago, they were like, you need to come up with a better name. That's awful. No one ever pitched me something ever, like anything. Like I would have named it anything. So it's called the Streamer Group. Then we were trying to come up with a name for the show because we made the original Snap history video. It wasn't under a brand. We put it out on CC's channel. And then that one had like, I don't know, like 400,000 views. So we're like, okay, cool. Well, what would we call it? Like speed documentaries. Let's call it Speed Docs. And CC goes, that's a horrible name for a show. All right, we'll think of something better. And then Speed Docs is the name of the show. There's two versions of that story. One of them is that CC pitched Speed Docs, and one that I pitched it. I think I pitched it, but I know he listens to every episode. So this is me talking directly to him right now. And then the event that we do is Speed Docs-a-thon, which was actually a placeholder because I thought that the original idea for it was they're just going to show the videos in a sequence, and then that idea was so boring that we were like, okay, we have to do like an actual marathon, but we never got a better name. No one ever thought of a better name. So we call it SDAT, and that kind of makes it a little better. But no, I named my marathon the name of the show, A-thon. So those are my naming convention sins.
I will mention that the original name that I had like made as a placeholder for the event that I'll be running a little later this year, the placeholder was This-a-thon, and there's a reason for it, I promise. So it's going to be run on TGH's Twitch channel. He's letting me borrow it for a weekend later this year. And it is a charity event. I'm not going to talk about what charity it is, but the reason why I'd prototyped the name This-a-thon was because the channel mascot is Whooper. And if anyone doesn't know the Whooper meme, it's if anyone is familiar with Gold, Silver, Crystal's intro, where it's like, this world is inhabited by creatures we call Pokemon. It shows Whooper in the middle of the screen to show like an example of a Pokemon. Instead, this meme was just a screenshot of that, but with all the other text gone except for the word this. So now we just call Whooper this. Every time we play a Crystal randomizer, we just yell this whenever we see like a Whooper, or if we see a Quagsire, we yell big this, because it's, big this. It's the evolved form. So I was just like, you're typically a Zelda channel because he speedruns classic Zeldas, and your channel mascot is Whooper, which all his emotes are like TGH this or whatever. So I was just like, we're just gonna be like, it's dangerous to go alone. Take This-a-thon. And I came up with that name on a car ride to, I think, the grocery store. I don't remember. But I was like, Jay is TGH's name. I was like, Jay, you need to help me figure out a name for this event. And we couldn't think of anything. Although we did come up with a name for a pretty cool idea for, like, if it were a co-op or 2P1C sort of event. It's Dangerous to Go Alone would be a fantastic co-op marathon name. That is not what I'm planning, but someone should plan it.
I'm glad that that's not what you're planning. Also, I feel a lot better sharing my soul with you, knowing that you came up with This-a-thon. I feel a lot better talking about the origin of Speed Docs-a-thon, knowing that This-a-thon is an idea that was proffered into the universe.
I mean, it is no longer the name, thankfully, but I was not the one who saved the event from being called This-a-thon.
That's true. There you go.
I'm gonna shout out the only kid. They are the reason why it is not gonna be called this-a-thon. I'm not gonna reveal the name yet. But that's probably gonna be revealed later in the month. Because I'm just about done with like some of the preliminary like document writing. I always like to write an event proposal when I'm doing a like large community event, just to see if people have any interest in it. And I always like write a big old Google Doc being like, hey, here's the marathon idea, here's the charity or the purpose it's for, here's the platform, here's the theme if there is one, who's interested? And then if I get enough interest, I'm just like, heck it, here's the sign up form. But instead I've learned to, at least in this case, because I'm not being backed by Hotfix for this, I'm not being it's not a Sonic Speedrun community affair as well, so I don't have, while I'll probably end up working with a number of the staff from that, for this side project, it is not guaranteed, so I don't know who I'm going to have as restreamers, stuff like that, and I'm trying to figure out if I'm doing like a 12-hour segmented, per day event over the course of a weekend, or if I'm doing 24/7 format, the latter... Right. Of which is like extremely taxing. Like, I will not go into that format without enough staff. Like, end of story. Right. So I'm opening with volunteer submissions to open to get like interest in staff, and then once I build that up, I can then open game submissions. Once I can figure out whether or not, I'm gonna do a 12-hour like multi-day event, with no overnight blocks. Or I'm going to be doing a 24/7 event with overnight blocks. I've never done the latter, by the way. So it's going to be one of those things where if I do it, I have to make sure that like everyone's health going into it is okay. Everyone's taken care of. Shifts are not too long, stuff like that. That's one thing I've learned from doing events, that 12-hour shifts are unreasonable. Don't do them. Whether you are hosting, doing tech, or doing restreaming, or whatever, you don't want to do 12-hour shifts. You don't even want to do 6-hour shifts, though, like, depending on the person, like, or the task, you can do 6-hour shifts, but, like, I wouldn't do more than, like, 4 hours, if I can avoid it, but,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember it was the first day we did like a little thing for a video that came out. We did like a Wind Waker video, and we did like a little celebration. We did like 3 12-hour days. And I didn't know this when I planned the event, but I was able to get that vaccine, that COVID vaccine.
Uh-oh.
And so I got the first jab. I got that jab on March 28th. The event was April 25th, 26th, 27th, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So the first day was a Friday. And I'm like, cool. I'm going to get the second jab 2 weeks, right? Nope. They were booked.
Uh-oh.
Like, when am I going to get in? First day of launch party, which was the name of the event. They're like, that's when you're going to come in. You're going to come in at 9 a.m. I'm like, I'm not even taking off that day. I'm going to get the second jab and then work an 8-hour day and then host all night. They were like, yup. And that's what happened. I worked an 8-hour shift at work and then came home and then hosted. As soon as we hit play on the Wind Waker video, I passed out. I was done. I was like, see you later. It was like 6 hours of hosting. I was like, start the movie. The people want the movie. So even like 6 hours is really hard. I am a big advocate for more days, but like the 12 to 14 hours, I'm a big fan of that. We did the 24/7 thing for SDAT, the original. We're not doing that again because you end up with like everyone's tired. There's a few people you can ask to do the overnights because they, by benefit of the fact they live in the UK or they live in the EU or they live in Russia or whatever. And they can help you, but then it's hard getting like early morning runs. It's hard getting like who are you going to put on at 4 a.m. if you're not going to do a 9-hour RPG? So there's scheduling problems. It's just a whole logistical thing. And ultimately, What I found was we didn't get any donations from the overnight. There was exactly one thing that raised money for charity during the overnight, and I will shout them out because they proved me wrong, and it was actually a really great showcase. It was the Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise people. They came. I think they restreamed their own thing. They brought their own tech. I was super impressed. They were super professional. It was amazing. They did a great job, and they raised a whole bunch of money. And it was like while we were asleep. And I woke up, I'm like, damn, where did we make all the money from? I was like, what happened? And no, they were great. But every other day we woke up, it was like, people were grouchy. Then if anything goes wrong, like hosting that really is, I'm usually the head host. There usually isn't a lot of like hosting problems at 4 in the morning. But there's always tech problems at 4 in the morning. And my technical head, who's Quo, he didn't get a lot of sleep during the first SStat. He didn't get a lot of sleep during launch party. And we had a 12-hour break every night. So pretty crazy. I want to take things back a little bit because we're talking a lot about events and we're talking a lot about like things that you've been doing. I want to ask you about how you got started with the hotfix stuff. I'm very interested in like where all that began.
Sure. So it depends on if you want the long version that leads up to my involvement, or if you want the short version where it was just GDQ posted a Twitter tweet saying we're looking for show hosts. Pitch your idea.
Talk nerdy to me.
All right. So, let's go back to. So I've been speedrunning for a really long time. I've been in the community since like 2011, and so back in 2018, I did my very first marathon run. It was called Speedathon, with like 10 A's in the middle. So Speedathon. And it was on TGH's channel. And it was to raise money for Revolution, who is a Freedom Planet runner. And he had gotten into AGDQ. And this was like back in December of 2018. And I had recently quit running Sonic Adventure 2 for like 6 years. I'd quit, after 6 years I quit to start actually taking Sonic 3D Blast, a run I'd been doing for 5 years, like very on and off, touch and go. I was like, let's take Sonic 3D Blast more seriously because I know that the best ending category needs a reroute. The community doesn't exist, and I'm going to rope as many people as I can into my isometric hellscape cult.
I'm a fan of where this is going.
So I started running 3D Blast best ending. I started doing the routing for it, or the rerouting rather. And the only kid who I've shouted out already, they were like, Amber, you gotta task the category if you want to find out what's actually optimal. And I was like, I don't have the like willpower or the energy to task. I'm not tasking. So they go, all right, I'ma do it. So then I started collabing with them on a task for best ending. It is on YouTube, it's on task videos, it's there. But we learned a lot about the game. And then I see, by chance, I see Lori D. Bunnykins, who I'd followed through a speed gaming Sonic Adventure 2 Dark Story tournament. They were one of the people who set up one of the matches that I was commentating for that earlier that year. And I see Lori tweet out that she was doing a speedathon to help raise money for Revolution, who I'd met when I dabbled in speedrunning Freedom Planet, the Carol category. And I was like, oh, I definitely want to help Revo get to AGDQ. So I submitted Sonic 3D Blast on the last minute possible that the submissions were open. Because I was like, I gotta put together a video, I gotta like actually write up my pitch. Let's go. And they had miscommunicated when submissions were closing. I assumed 11:59 p.m. into midnight, on the last day possible. No, they meant like 11:59 a.m. to 12 noon. So I woke up by chance at like 11:30 a.m. that day and was like, wait, what do you mean submissions close in 30 minutes? And I just like, I got my submission together, submitted it like last minute possible. They closed at 12 noon and I got in because Revolucion actually really likes the Sonic 3D Blast from like his childhood, and TGH, who was also part of the game selection because it was his channel, also remembered Sonic 3D Blast on the Mega Collection disc. So I do that run, and I had the only kid and my friend Sega Junkie as my commentators, and it was a blast. It was a rush. I ended up underestimate, but I made like huge mistakes, yada yada yada. But I was just like, I'm hooked. I'd already been hooked on doing commentary for other events at that point, but I'd never done a run myself, and I was like, I'm gonna submit 3D Blast to everything. So I did, and that included like a number of marathons for the remainder of 2018 into early 2019. So fast forward a bit to the very first Frame Fatales event that was being held on GDQ Hotfix. And I was, at the time, I wasn't out as non-binary, so my pronouns at that time were she, her. My pronouns now are they, them for anyone who's listening. And I was approached by Muffins, who is the Hotfix manager. She's now my boss. And she goes, would you be interested in running in this all-woman speedrunning marathon? I've been told that, like, you are a good showcase runner. And I was like, hell yeah. And so I started running in Frame Fatales, and then later, like, offered to run for Hotfix for a new show that was coming up. It was Tree Fort, and I ran Pokemon Channel and Sonic R and the Saturn version of Sonic 3D Blast for a couple of different Hotfix shows. And that's kind of how Muffins got in touch with me in the first place. It was through Frame Fatales and later through an old Hotfix show called Tree Fort. I think I was on Tree Fort twice, I think. That's what it was. And that was hosted by Liz Star. And Muffins followed me on Twitter. We're mutuals. And a little later that year, I am like, hey, let's do a Sonic event based around the 100% categories or the all Chaos Emerald categories. So I write a proposal, I post it on Twitter to get, feedback or like get interest, and Muffins reaches out to me and says, DM me. So I DM her, and she invites me to run the show on Hotfix. And it was a weekend event, and she learned through working with me for that I was reliable, yada yada yada, right? So fast forward, and that was like April, like February through April of 2020. And I ended up moving from where I lived in Boston to where I live now in Rhode Island to move in with TGH. And like we ran the show in April, and it was a great time. I was not the host for that. Author Blues hosted it, but I was the head organizer. Shout outs to Author Blues for being the show host for 24 total hours. You poor, poor soul. I later did it this year and realized that was a mistake. It was very tiring. But so from March onwards, because I moved in March to host this event in April, but I quit my old hotel job to move in with TGH. And because of COVID and being immunocompromised, we did not want me working a, people-facing job. So we were like, we're going to hold out. TGH is going to support the two of us financially. And, we'll find a job for me that works. So in November, I believe, it was either September or November, GDQ posts this tweet going, we're looking for a new showrunner for Hotfix. Email this email with your show idea and 2 episodes worth of content as a pitch. You don't have to like go with, the 2 episodes of content that you pitch. It's just examples of, how to, like, you have an idea of how you would run your show, like what runs you'd include, yada, yada, yada. So I send out an email pitching this show called Never Before Seen because I couldn't think of anything else. Like, my original show idea was runs that were dedicated to 100% categories, or a show that was dedicated to runs of 100% categories. But I realized that the longevity of that was not going to be great. And eventually the other idea I came up with was the one that stuck, and it was Never Before Seen, games that have not been run in AGDQ, SGDQ, and GDQX. And I send that email out to the hotfix email, and Muffins eventually, like 3 weeks after the applications closed, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be down for an interview at this time? Like X day, X time, whatever." Yeah, sure. That interview wasn't an interview, it was more of a job offer, in a sense, of like, we like your show idea, we want you on board. The original show time was supposed to be, I think, like Thursdays at 7 p.m. or something, or every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. It was supposed to be opposite of Mercy Kill. And Muffins was like, "Hey, how about Wednesday at 10 p.m. following Mercy Kill?" Because we brought on, like, instead of just one person, we liked like 6 ideas, and we're bringing on like 6 ideas. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that's when me, Midnight Vesper, Ectisis, Matt Lackey, God, who else? Kung Fu Fruit Cup, and there was one other person who got brought on. Their name escapes me right now. But like, we all got brought on as showrunners in November. And I was just like, out of curiosity, why'd you select me? And Muffins was like, well, honestly, we trust you to run a show because you've worked with us in the past, like organizing like Sonic and the Shiny Things, and you've like run in Frame Fatales, you've done commentary for GDQ runs, you've done hotfix shows in the past, like as a runner. We know you are reliable, and we know you are a good choice, and we actually genuinely like your show idea, because giving a platform to games that would normally not be on GDQ stage for whatever reason is fantastic. And that's just kind of how I ended up involved. But I remember between the time, like, I remember like in 2019 when I was doing a bunch of marathon runs for Sonic 3D Blast, I was sitting in a breakfast diner in Boston with TGH, having breakfast after an overnight shift I had worked, because I worked overnights for a living for like 6 years. And I was just like, I would really, really like to find a way to get involved more with GDQ, like, and potentially become like, you know, have a position with like some form of their staff. Technically I am not staff, I am a hotfix showrunner, so like, while I you know, shows for them, my opinions are my own, etc. But I did not
you're like
think...
staff adjacent.
Yeah, like, I'm a contractor, essentially, because I run a syndicated show for them, but I am not their tech staff, I'm not, you know, their actual, like, hotfix manager or anything like that. I'm just a showrunner. And I'm happy to be a showrunner right now. And, you know, organizing events was a thing that I fell in love with in like early 2019, and wouldn't trade it for the world, honestly. It's kind of my calling in the speedrun community, because I'm not a strat finder, I'm not a tasser, I'm not a world record grinder. I'm quasi router. Like, so like when I do take an interest in a game, I route more than anything. And I just want to organize events. That's the thing that I've realized I'm good at. It's the thing that I'm able to invest myself into, but never in my wildest dreams did I think, you know, late 2019, sitting in that breakfast diner. I remember that diner very well because it had like paintings of like Disney characters on the walls behind where I was sitting. And there's a selfie of me holding a thing of salt as a joke. But there's this terrified Aladdin looking like at me technically because my head is blocking the magic lamp. Because he's looking at like the lamp activating and Genie coming out of it, but he just looks absolutely mortified at me holding a thing of salt. But I never thought that I would end up involved with Hotfix or GDQ in the way that I have in pretty much a year's time. It was about a year from that conversation I had with TGH. So, you know, I'm sort of like living the dream. It's not a very well-paying dream. It's not a high-paying dream, but it is better than the income of 0 I had starting last year in March, when I left a really, really not great hotel industry, for trying to figure out where I could fit in. Because I finally had the comfort to do so.
Right.
And yeah, like that's kind of like how I ended up involved in Hotfix. It was just more of I had an idea and a dream, and GDQ opened an opportunity.
A lot of what you say resonates with me, and I'm sure it will resonate with the people listening. But I guess in the same way that I'm like, everything that you said, I'm like, yeah, this is like feeling that I have, or like, oh, I could get like, I get this or whatever, and I'm listening to you, and that ultimately the difference is that I would never be like, this is just me personally. I don't think it's in me to join GDQ. For me, that's like joining the Empire. Like, they're already winning the war. I want to like go like scrap it out. I want to have like the ghetto stream and like figure things out. You know, I want to always build my own thing. And you're also doing that. You're doing your disathon, which it's not called disathon, but I'm not. We obviously don't know the name of it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm always like, I always build. I fail a lot. That's the other problem with being a builder, is that you fail more than you succeed. But no, it's so interesting that we could like be the same, like have the same feeling on everything. Like, I'm really, everything that you said, I'm like, yeah, and then the execution of that just be different. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Like, I'll be real, like, my real pipe dream is to have my own freelance group. I had a name planned out and everything. I wanted to be, like, this was, like, right before Muffins had reached out to me to be a showrunner. I wanted to try to I wanted to try to, like, create a group called Gemini Broadcasting Team. And it was just going to be a organizer team. At the time, I was organizing Rogue Rush for Rogue GG, which is an esports organization. They mostly do like League of Legends and Rocket League. But they had approached TGH, who was on the stream team at the time as a speedrunner, to help organize a charity speedrunning event. I eventually head organized that. And we raised like $1,800 for Able Gamers in, I want to say like September of that year. September or like August. I don't quite remember the dates at this point. For an event on a channel that had previously only aired esports and did not have a background in speedrunning. The event was, for the most part, a success, I think. There were a lot of communication issues, though. I will openly admit there were a lot of communication issues between my group of speedrunners who were organizing it. So it was me, TGH, Dave Stereo, and Argic. And that's actually how I got to know Argic better. I'd known Argic vaguely for a few years as a Sonic runner, but like that's how he and I started actually working together and become good friends.
Mm-hmm.
But like the four of us were the organizers for Rogue Rush, but we had some communications with Rogue itself, but we made the best out of it. Things eventually came together. It was all good. But that was between that and the Sonic speedrun community team that I work with as well. Where we do quarterly events. We usually do 3 tournaments and a charity marathon every year. We are in the process of building up to an announcement for our Q3 tournament, which is going to be great. I can't say what game it's going to be, but That announcement is coming later this month.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, like I realized like I can do independent stuff. Like my very first event I organized was called Fladfest. It was to raise money for Derby, who was a Celeste speedrunner, or is a Celeste speedrunner, and he needed travel funds to go to Pace 2019 because he was a finalist for the Celeste tournament that they were doing. And he's in Brazil, so it was not inexpensive for him to travel from Brazil to Maryland, where the event was taking place.
Right.
And I had 3 days to organize that, and it was me, Lori D. Bunnykins, TGH, and I want to say one other Swezzy, Claris, and I think Co-Empathy were the people who helped organize that. And we had 3 days to organize it, and it was a 3-day, 12-hour, like, segmented day format sort of thing. And it was a success where we raised, like, $1,500, I think. And we hit our goal and exceeded it in the first day, so, like, that alone was absurd. Our goal was, like, $1,000, I think, to cover, like, travel and food, and hotel stay.
Right.
But, then we raised an additional like $500 or something like that, which we donated to other runners for that event who needed travel funds as well, including Chai Kitty. And like I think we gave the rest to GSA to like split among whomever needed other assistance, because we didn't know any of the other runners personally, so we didn't know who needed help. But we made sure we got the Celeste folks there without a problem, and then gave the remainder to GSA to divide. But that said, like I still would like to do a solo team or like a freelance team that can just be like a production team, essentially. Like if someone has an event idea and they want to put in the time to organize it, we can do like the production on our end, that sort of thing, or we can do the legwork needed to like get an event off the ground. But that's not in the cards at this time, just because like I'm still learning from Hotfix. I'm still learning from doing my own stuff like on the side every once in a while, and I'm still learning from being part of the Sonic Speedrun community. So when I find people who want to commit to that at some point, that'd be great. But until then, I'm still in the learning process as an event organizer, as a host. And I'm learning valuable things to take with me when I do eventually say, hey, it's been real, never before seen has run its course. I'm gonna like part ways to do my own. Because that day will happen. Will it happen soon? Probably not, unless like something physically prevents me from running that show. Or I straight up run out of content, but with, you know, games coming out every month, there's no way for me to run out of content. But, you know, eventually that show will hit the point where I'm like, yeah, I think I've done everything I want to do with this. Either someone can take it over if there's another showrunner who would want to take up the mantle, or, you know, I just put it down and be like, hey, series finale, let's go. But that's like off in the distant future.
Yeah. Well, if you ever do anything on your own, I'd be glad to give you a hand in any way that I can. You know, that's a standing offer.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I talk. That's what I do. So, you know, put me out there and have me host something. I did want to ask. Now, you don't have to name names, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about, because you obviously a very talented producer, I might say, and you have numerous experiences. What's the worst runner experience that you've had? Because I have a bad one that I'd like to hear if you'd be willing to share. A particularly negative, like you're trying to schedule with a runner or work something out and it's bad.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus. All right. So I won't say which production this was for.
Of course.
And I won't say the runner name, but so for everything I do, whether it is Hotfix, Sonic Speedrun community, or my own things, I do tech checks. They are mandatory. Every runner must complete a tech check, or I won't have you in the event, or I won't have you on the show, or whatever, right? Because I need to make sure that your stream is stable, and I need to make sure that, you know how to actually stream in the way that helps my restreamers run the show, right? So like if your video or audio is not right, I'm not gonna have you go in half-cocked and, put on a worse show than you're capable of.
Right.
So there was this one person who needed to who I needed to tech check, and they were running a couple of games. And they were like very much non-communicative when I would ping all the people who still hadn't tech checked. And I was like, your deadline is this day. I need to tech check you. If you don't tech check, you can't be a part of this. Eventually, they finally get into a tech check with me. Or rather, they get into a tech check with one of my restreamers who had like... When we go into these tech checks, we expect them to take no more than maybe 15 minutes if there's troubleshooting needed, but we expect 5 to 10 minutes at most, right? Because you're given a bunch of instructions, you're given all your resources that you need to like get yourself together. If you have trouble, we have a troubleshooting channel, stuff like that, to try to like get you fixed up so that we're really only tech checking you for like stream stability and quality. And like this person gets into a tech check with one of my restreamers, and they were not set up whatsoever. So they were told, read the documentation and then ping Amber, because I'm not going to be available. Because I was the only other one who was going to be available like on this day. In particular, I'd woken up and they were like, yeah, I could do a tech check now. And I'm like, I literally just woke up. So-and-so, can you cover this? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Sure.
So that so-and-so restreamer messages me and says, this runner was not ready. I told them to read the document and ping you when they're ready. So they pinged me and said, yeah, I'm ready for a tech check. I'm like, all right. Let me finish eating and I'll tech check you. And it was an awful quick ping to me after they had failed a tech check, right? So I get in the call with them and they're like silent. And I'm like, okay, you have instructions to stream to this channel or this like thing. Can you please start your stream and let me know when you do? Silence. No words. Stream's not up. And I'm like, is there a problem? Are you okay? Are you actually set up? And they're like, silence. And I'm sitting there awkwardly, and I was on my laptop, so I didn't have headphones for the tech check. And TGH is sitting there with me, and he can confirm this story, I promise. But this is also the point where he looks at me and says, I don't know how you're doing this. I don't know why you haven't gone off. And we're sitting there silent, and I'm like, hey, runner, is there a problem with your setup? And they finally go, oh, yeah, OBS is just taking a while to load up. Which, there's some bad news. Eventually, they get it open, and they start streaming, and the stream is like a slideshow. I'm like, all right. What bitrate and resolution are you at? We go through the whole steps, but every time I ask a question, it takes like 3 minutes to get a response from them. They just sit there awkwardly in silence. And that tech check went back and forth like that for about probably half an hour, 45 minutes maybe. Probably half an hour though. And I had to tech check them for 2 games, which made it even worse.
Oh no.
So like it was just very awkward. Eventually they pass the tech check like bare minimum. Like I don't expect like when I run an event, I don't want you to stream it super high quality if your rig can't handle it, right? Or if your internet can't handle it.
Sure.
We can make your feed clear, even if it's a video feed for ants. We can make it clear on even potato computers and internet. You just gotta work with me. Because the one thing I've also learned is that chat doesn't mind a slightly low-res stream or a 30 FPS stream, so long as it doesn't turn to a slideshow. The second it turns to a slideshow, they don't shut up.
Right.
Tech can even be in chat and be like, we know this is a problem, we're working on it, or we know this is a problem, we can't do anything about it. And then people in chat won't shut up. They still won't shut up. They ignore the tech. So I finished that tech check and I messaged the restreamer who had originally tried to tech check them. And I was like, oh my god. Like, I like, were they like this with you? And they're like, yeah, it took me like a good 5 to 10 minutes to get them to say that they hadn't set up at all. Like, we got into the call and they were just quiet and silent. We got into like the event and they did their runs, but they were really, really awkward. They couldn't commentate very well. Their stream had like reverted settings. Like, so like they went back to their usual streaming settings.
Okay.
And like it was a nightmare. And then after their second run, I'm like, I was the one hosting for that, so I go like, I'm sitting there and just saying like, coming up next, we've got this, yada yada yada. Apparently, as soon as this runner had finished their run, they just dipped. Normally, like they were told like, keep your stream up until like we go to the break, until we go to the intermission screen. They dipped. So I was just talking to silence and chat. And like I was not aware that they had just straight up dipped.
That's
and
awful.
It was just like they're going on the list. And when I say the list, I mean the list of people I don't want to work with again. And
I also have a list. I think every organizer has a list.
Yes, and some organizers swap lists and it becomes here's a giant blacklist of people you don't work at all or refuse to communicate. Or were extremely rude to me or staff or other runners or other commentators or whatever. Or like you bailed without notice and without reason. Like, because if you're gonna bail out of an event, that's okay. Like, as long as you say, as soon as you know what's going on, you say it. Like, ping the people in charge. Be like, hey, I have a family thing I have to do. I can't get out of it. This popped up last minute. I'm sorry. And like, you know what? If you tell me as soon as you know, that's okay. Like,
yeah.
But if you just disappear and say like, yeah, I'm not doing my run, sorry, bye. And it's like, you're the next run, and then you go and stream on your own channel doing absolutely nothing different.
Exact thing happened to me.
Yeah.
I had that exact same thing happen to me. Like, that's not even my story, but that thing happened to us where they were the next run, and then I'm like, they're not doing it? Okay. And then I look and they're streaming. And they're just doing attempts. I'm like, what are you doing? They told us like 5 minutes beforehand. I was like they're the next run. They gave us 30 minutes heads up. I was like, what are we supposed to do with that information? And then they were streaming. I'm like, you just didn't want the stream to end? Like, huh?
Yeah, like I respect like family things. I respect family or general emergencies. Like if there's a failure in communication, my first or like not a failure in communication, but a failure to show up or a like sudden change in plans, or if I hear nothing from someone when they're supposed to like meet up for a tech check or whatever, my first concern isn't like, oh god, how dare they? It's, oh god, I hope they're okay. That's always my first concern. And if they come back and they're like, hey, I know I missed this. It either, it slipped my mind because I had all these things going on today, yada, yada, yada. It's like, I'm usually willing to forgive as long as you're like, not a jerk about it, honestly. Like,
Right.
it's just like, I get it, life happens, but the sooner you say something the better. But like, my god, I still remember that, like, one event, I wasn't even the organizer, I was a runner for it, and I just see this person go, yeah, I don't want to do my run anymore, and they were like, the next run, and then they tweeted out that they were going to stream attempts, and I was just like, really? I'm gonna remember you did that, because, like, if I ever run an event, I'm not having you on my list of, like,
Exactly.
accepted runs, because you're not reliable. Which, by the way, to anyone who wants to get into running in marathons, don't do that. Like, if life happens, it's okay. We get it. Most organizers are a reasonable crew of people. But the second you know you can't do something, please say something. Or if you get stage fright and you need to back out, say something more than 30 minutes before your run.
It's really hard to separate when it's like you're like, to be blunt, you're fucking me over. Like, if you're gonna bail and give me like 30 minutes to come up with an alternate plan, like, that's what you're doing. I had somebody a friend drop out of an event, and they gave me an hour notice, and I'm like, you're next. Like, they're like, oh, my internet's been out for 2 days. I'm like, how is this the first I'm hearing about it? Like, what? Like, I'm sorry that happened, but how did you not mention this at all? I'll tell you my worst one.
Okay.
So we had a lot of submissions for the original SStat, and it's not uncommon. In fact, most that I've seen, I mean, we borrowed it from other marathons, so it's not uncommon. A lot of events, if they're going to do 24/7, they have to put in buffer blocks or setup blocks or something, because there's a chance after X amount of hours you're going to be behind. You need that time to catch up or to be ahead, right? So, like, I think it was every 6 hours we scheduled, or every 8 hours, every 6 to 8 hours we scheduled a 20-minute buffer block. Now, we had a dozen or 24 runs that were less than 20 minutes long. So what we did was we reached out to everybody and said, hey, now I do this differently than a lot of people. I don't just publish the list, right? I don't publish the games list. I don't publish the schedule. I go to every single person and I say, is this okay with you? This is what you wrote down on the form. Is this what you meant? And believe it or not, most of the time, like, I get 5 or 6 people that are like, actually, I wrote that, but I didn't mean that. Okay, when are you available? Or what resolution is your game? Or what do you mean you didn't submit this game? Like, I'm looking at it in the form, right? Like, so I confirm with everybody. And I confirm it the way that I confirmed our call, right? And you can verify this. I'm like, okay, we're going to meet. How is this time on this day of the week? Cool, that sounds good. Okay, so we're good for the 8th. We're good for 8 p.m. on the 3rd, right? Yes, that sounds good. Okay, that's how I do it every time. I confirm, and then I double confirm. Because if I don't, my anxiety will not let me sleep. I will wonder if you misunderstood me for the rest of forever. So I quadruple confirm. I always make sure that I'm understood. I drag it out of people, even though it bothers them. And we had someone who agreed to be a bonus runner, which is what we called them. Hey, if we're ahead at this time, you'll do your run. So they agreed to do that. Then during the event, and it was the original SStat. I'm not going to say who it was. It was the schedule came out, and they said, "Hey, I don't see my run on the schedule." I'm like, so I DM them, "Hey, just letting you know, we talked about this. You are a buffer block run, so you are going to be at buffer block number 8." And they said, well, you just expect me to wait around for the entirety of the event? I have other things to do. I said, no, I don't expect you to wait around for the entirety of the event. Your run, if it happens, is going to be at this time on this day. And it's totally reasonable. It's within your availability. It said when you said you'd be awake. And they said, yeah, but there's no guarantee that it'll happen. I said, okay, do you not want to do it? Like, you agreed to do it. Well, and then they went in the Discord and said, you're not the only marathon. There's 5 other marathons going on this weekend, and I don't need to do this. You need me, and I don't need you. In, like, general. And I'm like, okay, if you don't want to do your run, it's like, well, I'm doing other runs. Other runs thought to schedule me, and I'm like, okay. Like, do you not want to do it? I want to do it. Okay. Then we were ahead at their time slot, which meant that they would have done the run, right? They did not show up.
Of course. And, they made a big deal about it, and then they don't show up.
They made a big deal, and it's like, oh, I'm sticking it to the man. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You just wasted everybody's time, and, you know, honestly, just wasted everyone's energy. And the only other one I can think of, this one's a little less aggravating. We had someone who had a 2.5-hour run drop out. They gave us a day's notice, right? Which is enough time for me to go back to the pool and find someone that has a 2.5-hour run. So we found somebody. Oh, no, this is right. It was a Mario Galaxy 2 run, and the runner said, hey, I've got family problems. I'm recommending this person do my run. I'm like, okay, with a day to go, I'll take your word for it. So I messaged the person. They weren't told of the plan.
Oh, no.
So then they're like, oh, yeah, I'd love to do it. That's great. I love speed docs. I'm like, that's cool. Awesome. Are you okay doing this day at this time? And what is your time zone? They told me the time zone. I said, it'll be at this time in your time zone on this day, on this date, on this day. Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. And they were like in Sweden, if I remember correctly. And so the time came, they weren't up. They weren't around. And so we just had a blank space for 2.5 hours, or 3.5 hours, however long the Mario Galaxy 2 run is. And so we vamped. Then they showed up at 8 a.m. I thought you meant tomorrow. How could you have thought we meant tomorrow? How? Did you think I was lying to you when I said that I needed you here on this date at this time on this day of the week? It's not even like a dateline issue. We didn't cross the international date line. Like, you just were a donut. And I'm fine with that. Like, you know, it happens. But, like, don't be indignant about it afterwards. Like, oh, you told me the wrong day. Nah, buddy. Nuh-uh.
I got screenshots.
I got receipts. So,
my goodness.
I hope that brought some entertainment to the people listening. I want to try out a new segment before we wrap up today. I have a friend. Her name is Felicity. She's a very, very good friend of mine, a best friend of mine. And she doesn't know anything about speedrunning or speedrunners or whatever. So I told her I was doing a podcast. I couldn't talk because I was doing a podcast. So she wrote in questions for me to ask. If this doesn't work, we'll cut it out. But I think it's pretty funny. All right.
Okay.
Are you open to a new segment?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. The first question. If you had to choose one place to eat for the rest of your life, where would it be and why? If they choose, and why is it Taco Bell? And if it's not Taco Bell, why are you lying? That question is very presumptive. But what if you could? I guess if you could choose one place to eat for the rest of your life, where would it be and why?
Oh God, that's a really good question because I haven't eaten out in like well over a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Cheesecake Factory.
Okay, it's a power play.
It's got a limitless friggin' menu. That's pretty much it. It's like I would never get bored.
You're going the carte blanche sort of method. Like you're writing the biggest check.
Yeah. Like it's like, hey, if I'm gonna eat at this place every day, or like, you know, whenever I go out to eat or something, like at least I wouldn't get bored. The only problem is that I've also gone on a diet as of like 3.5 months ago or something, 3 months ago.
Hell yeah.
Which has been doing great for me, considering like I have a mobility disability, so like I can't really exercise very well, and I walk with a cane a lot of the time. So I had to mostly just change my diet to be able to lose weight.
Right.
And like Cheesecake Factory is a lot of calories. Delicious calories, but a lot of bad food.
I've only eaten at a Cheesecake Factory one time. We don't really have them up here, but it was good the one time I had it.
They're pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I've been there a few times, usually for special occasions like celebrating a job or celebrating leaving a job. I've done that one, and celebrating birthdays or Valentine's Day. The last time I was there was Valentine's Day of 2019, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
There you go. Nice.
But like it was that's definitely my choice. Taco Bell is also good, but I would get very bored because all I really like from there is the Crunchwrap Supreme.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to have a Crunchwrap Supreme every day for the rest of my life, I'd probably die, but also be like probably get sick of it very quickly.
I think you would die just from the contents of the food in quick order. I don't think that the nutrients being supplied are sufficient.
Yeah, to say the very least.
All right. Question number 2. If your partner was inside out, would you still be their friend?
If they were inside out, if Jay was inside out, I'd look at him funny. But like, because I'd be like, "Yo, hon, are you okay? Like, you kind of got like your innards are now outwards. Do you need a hospital?"
This is like a very Attack on Titan vibe.
Yeah. Like, it's like, I didn't know you were a Titan all of a sudden, but, like, I'd be like, do you need medical attention? Like, I'd still care, I'd still be there for them, but it's more of a, like, I need to make sure that you're okay.
Would the glasses be worn on the inside?
Oh,
so
God.
Would he have, like, yellow-tinted eyes?
Oh, God. It's funny you bring up the
CRT with impunity.
Like, I'm actually amused that you bring up the Gunners because he barely wears them these days. But
it's one of those things where it's like the caricature of him, right? Like that's like if you were to like go to the boardwalk and the boardwalk the guy doing the character didn't draw the glasses. It's like why'd you draw some random dude?
Yeah, like, he used to wear contacts. When I met him, he had stopped wearing contacts, so all he wears is glasses, but he used to wear, like, only his Gunners, and then he went to just, like, wearing his regular glasses, because the Gunners, like, would dig into the sides of his head, so, like, I don't think if he went inside out with the Gunners on, it would probably not be very comfortable for him. But
I used I had the problem where I had really bad eye strain, and I think I still do it, but I turn the like blue light filter on all my devices like all the way up.
Same.
And I have to turn it off for graphic design so I get the colors right. But other than that, I'm just much happier this way.
Oh yeah, like blue light filters, and like I have a pair of Gunners. I have 2 pairs of Gunners. I have the crystalline lenses that let me work in true color because I do like graphics design. I do art as well, like hand art, hand drawn art on my iPad, digital art. There we go. There's the word I'm looking for.
There we go.
I fumbled. I found it eventually. And then I have the amber tinted shades as well. It's actually I have them both in frames that aren't sold anymore. They're the anime style frames. So like the typical like, you know, rectangular, square, thick black frames. Like they're not thick, they're not like tall frames, they're like narrow frames, but
right.
I don't wear them all the time, largely because like they eventually get to me with the bridge of my nose. Because I don't need glasses. So not having a pair that's fitted directly to my face is like sometimes hell. But yeah, like if my partner were turned inside out, I'd probably get to like call 911, honestly. But you know, still be there, still take care of them. It's just like Damn, dude, what happened to you? How did you end up like this?
Who did that to you?
Who hurt you? Who inversed you?
The last question from Felicity. If your fingers were made of chicken, would you eat them or would you keep having chicken fingers?
I mean, it just sounds like having infinite chicken fingers at the end there.
I don't think they grow back.
I don't think they'd grow back either. But if my fingers were made of chicken, I assume it's like fried chicken?
I'm imagining like long pieces of breaded chicken.
Yeah, that's what I was imagining too. I don't think I'd eat them. I wouldn't eat my left hand because like my left hand is what's dominant. Whether or not I eat the right hand, I'm not sure. Probably not because a lot of my work is done with my hands.
I'd fool around and nibble on a pinky.
You know,
it's finger licking good, right?
That's very fair. What dipping sauce though?
I'm barbecue.
I'm usually like either a ranch or a honey mustard, depending on my mood.
I can't do the ranch. I can't do it. I know that ranch is like a fan favorite, but I can't do the ranch.
Like, I actually found out that the best ranch, I was just like, why does, like, for example, like, the ranch cups from Domino's, they taste so much different from ranch in a bottle, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are definitely different flavors, but the closest you can get to that, like, fresh-tasting ranch, you get the Hidden Valley ranch packets, like the seasoning packets, and you get a thing of sour cream, and you mix the packet with the sour cream, and you have like the best ranch dip that you could ever ask for. I don't know what other flavors of packets that Hidden Valley has. It might just be the ranch, but if they have other flavors, look into that. But like,
I just can't do mayo. That's my hang up. I can't do the mayo.
Oh, that's fair. Like, that's honestly, like, I like mayo. In fact, I will dip fries in mayo. Because I'm a heathen.
I bet CC, like, I think it was like $20 or something to eat a spoonful of mayo. Because I was like, that's so disgusting. Why would you do that? And he's like, I don't have an aversion to mayo like you do. And I'm like, I don't have any food aversions. And then seeing him eat a spoonful of mayo made me throw up. And I was like, okay, God. Yes, I have an aversion to mayo. Thank you for helping me find this about myself.
I have an aversion to seafood, and I found that out through, like my parents used to have shrimp all the time. It was the only seafood they'd really eat, which is fine. Mm-hmm. I liked it. And then I was at a friend's house, and they were like, "Yeah, we got live lobsters. You want to try live lobster?" Yeah. And not only did I see them go into the boiling pot, and I'm an animal person, so like it freaked me out a bit. But when it was on the plate, it was fucking staring at me.
Yeah.
And I was just staring back at it, and I was just like, I can't eat this. I can't. And then I stopped eating seafood for like a month. And then my parents were like, hey, are you going to have shrimp with us? And the smell alone was enough to make me nauseated. So I can't have fish anymore. And
yeah. I didn't understand when I was a kid that people were buying lobster to eat them. Because I would go up and look at the lobster tank, and I'm like, oh, hey, lobsters. I'm like, what's so weird? Why do they sell pet lobsters at the grocery store? Like, I didn't get it. And then it took like a long time. I'm like, oh, they eat the lobster. And then I'm like, oh, it's an expensive thing. Because I would go multiple times and the same lobsters would be there. So I'm like, oh, hey, no one adopted this one yet. I was an incredibly, apparently naive child. But, all right, that is the end of Felicity's Question Corner. If people like this, let me know, and we can continue this as a segment, I suppose. Thank you for being a good sport while my friend asks random questions that she comes up with. And yeah, is there anything else before we wrap up that you wanted to mention?
Off the top of my head, you should tune in to the GDQ Hotfix show, Never Before Seen. That's the one I host. That's every other Wednesday. following up Mercy Kill. You should in general tune into GDQ Hotfix. It is very underrated, I think. And a lot of people seem to not realize it exists. It is your, kind of speedrun fix between GDQs if you are a person who just mostly watches GDQ during AGDQ and SGDQ. It's a good time. But also, my other project, or my other team that I work with is the Sonic Speedrun community, aptly named on Twitch as Sonic Speedrun Community. So if you go to twitch.tv/Sonic Speedrun Community, we do quarterly events, and we have all of our VODs up there from all of our past events. Also a good time if you like the blue hedgehog that runs fast. And just in general, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure, honestly.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being on. If you want to follow the guest today that we had on, Amber, you can follow them on, you can check out their speedrun.com profile. That's speedrun.com/user/Amber Cyprian. You can go to twitch.tv/Amber Cyprian, twitter.com/Amber Cyprian, @Amber Cyprian, or you can go to YouTube, youtube.com, type in Amber Cyprian.
Yeah. I was gonna say I don't have a custom URL because I can't be bothered.
YouTube is awful for that. YouTube is awful.
It really is.
So I just tell people to type it in, and I found it, so you'll find it. All right. Well, thank you so much to my guest this week. You were a pleasure. It was great having you on. You're welcome back anytime. Thank you to everybody who listens. And I want to point out really quick that Speed Docs-thon 2021 will be taking place August 27th through the 29th, and then September 3rd through the 6th. So come check out the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. And submissions are going to be closed by the time that this comes out. But everyone that got their submissions in, thank you. And it's going to be a great show. We're raising money for all hands and hearts. So come check it out. It's going to be fun. Get some donations in. Maybe cheeky incentive, if you want to support one. Or if not, honestly, just watching really helps everything. It helps all the wheels get greased and helps us pay the bills. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep watching, listening, downloading, telling your friends. That's all I'll ever ask you to do. And tune in next week for another great episode with another very special guest. Bye-bye.